Hey everyone, it's Professor Thomas. Here we are in Princeton Test 2 Mathematics. Great test to be working with a little bit of Wizard's math. All right, 45 over here, we're going to use a little bit of Wizard's logic. Wizard's logic tells you that a wizard believes that math is numbers, not letters. All right, here's our problem. It's 2z minus 3 is greater or equal to 7. So first thing I did is I came over here and let's get rid of the negative 3. All right, so we've got a negative 3 on the left of the inequality sign, and what we're going to do is just add 3 to that side. That will go away. So when we add 3 over here, it comes down to 2z is greater or equal to 10. And then we just solve for z, all right? So 2 times z is going to be greater or equal to 10. I just popped in a number here, 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. That's going to be equal to, so we just say that is what we get there. That means that we're going to have answer choice H, that's correct, and A. We can go ahead and cross out C and D because we've already solved for those. Now, what we do have to do is we have to come over here and we have to go ahead and plug in our negative 2. The reason being is because we've got our absolute value bars here, all right? So step number 2 is to go ahead and take from our answer choices a negative 2. So now we go 2 times z, and our z value here we said is going to be negative 2. 2 times negative 2 minus 3, all right? We're going to add that up, okay? So 2 minus 2 minus 3, that gives us a negative 7, and then that is also going to be equal to or greater. So that's going to work as well. 45 is going to be answer choice B, a little bit of Wizard's logic and back solving. Let's go ahead and take a look at problem 46. 46, when you come ahead and take a look over here, we see that it's another Wizard's problem, all right? So a couple things here. This is trig identity, and we can hack it by just thinking about this. Here, the sine of 30 on your calculator, if you just put sine of 30, it's going to equal 0.5. It's a really easy number for us to work with, okay? Wizard's logic, once again, says math is numbers, not letters. Here we have an x. So in trigonometry, if you see you're dealing with trig, pick 30 for your value. It could be your x value, your y value, it could be whatever it is. Sine, cosine, tangent, just pick your letter as being the number 30. Why? Because it's real easy. Sine of 30 gives you 0.5. Then what we do is rewrite the problem. It's sine squared over x. Now, this is really kind of weird when you try and punch it in your calculator. So just think of it this way. The sine squared of x really is the sine of x, and then you square it. Right? Now, here, we're going to go ahead and take our x value, put 30 in there. So it's going to be the sine squared 30, which means basically the sine 30 squared, all right? Since the sine 30, we already know, is 0.5. When you square that, it's 0.25. You with me so far? All right, the bottom, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the x value. So instead of x, we said we're going to choose 30. Cosine 30 times the tangent of 30, 866 times 577. Multiply those together, gives you roughly 499. So 0.25 divided by 0.499, or 5, gives you 0.5, which is kind of weird. All right, so our answer choice is going to equal 0.5. Take your 30 and plug this in. Cosine of 30 divided by the sine 30 squared. Calculate that out. Right away, you already know that the cosine or the sine of 30 is 0.5, so that gives you h right there. It's the sine. I know it is weird, but remember, Wizard's logic tells you that math is supposed to be about numbers, not letters. Okay, problem 47, a little trickier here. So the first thing you look over here, it looks like when you take a times x and subtract it and do all this stuff here, whatever you get here when you divide all this stuff out is going to be less than 0. So what's a number less than 0? Negative. All right. So when you come over here, you look at your answer choices for sure. If you have something over here, is going to be a positive number. So I got rid of all the positive numbers right away. Okay. So that means B and E can be knocked out right away. Then just using a little bit of Wizard's logic, Wizard says that we could choose whatever we wanted. For example, if you came back up here in problem 446, we chose 30 for your X value, but you know what? You could have chosen 20. Or 10. Why? Because Wizard's math says that these are all proportional. So whether you choose 4, 1 fourth. This is a negative 4, and 1 over 4 is 0.25 in the negative, right? Okay, those numbers right there and right there are going to be numbers that are less than 0. Does that make any sense? So if this is correct, then this is going to have to be correct because that's saying the same thing. So the answer's got to be D, Wizard's logic. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, kids. Problem number 47, Wizard's logic again. It's letters. Here we have an original cylinder, and then now we're going to take a cylinder and we're going to go ahead and double and half it and so forth. So here's what I did to make it nice and easy for us to work with. I came over here and I said V1. All right. Then I just selected what I wanted for my radius. It doesn't give us any number. So I just said the radius in the V cylinder 1 is going to be 4. You could have chosen 2. You could have chosen 3. You could do anything you want. I chose 4. So what I did is here's V1 and I chose our radius 4. Okay, just rewrite the problem. It's 1/3 pi r, and then I substituted the r value, 4 times 4, right? Okay, and then here's the height. I just picked 5. You could any number you want there or there, doesn't matter. V1, choose it, okay? This case, the yellow V1r is 4, and height is 5. Calculate that out. 1/3 pi 4 squared times 5, that calculates out to 83.65. Now, in this question here, it tells us that the radius is half. I chose 4, so in R2, half of 4 is going to be 2. You with me? The height is doubled. The height in V1 is 5, so here's going to be 10. Plug it in, 1/3 times pi r, which is 2 squared times the height, which is 10, and we're going to go ahead and plug that in, and that gives you 41.82. Compare them. 41.82 is going to be 1 to 2. You see it right here? That's going to give us answer choice J. That's problem 48, kids. On to 49. 49. Whoa. 49 looks like it's more Wizard's math. Here it tells us that the kid's riding up a bike up a hill in M minutes. What did I do? I know that we're asked about something in hours, and we're going to get M minutes. I grabbed a number. For some reason, I selected M equals 20. You could have said M equals 10, M equals 15, M equals 30. Whatever you want, I chose 20. All right? Select the number M equals 20. Now, when we're going up the hill, it's 20 minutes, and here it tells us that when we go down the hill, it's twice as fast. Twice as fast means half the time. 20 minutes up, 10 minutes down. Total time, 30 minutes. 30 minutes, and here's the trick. In hours, 30 minutes is half an hour, 0.5. Then take your number, M equals 20, plug it in. 20 divided by 60, that gives you 1/3 of an hour. 20 divided by 40, that gives you 0.5. And here, 20 divided by 30, 0.67 of an hour. And 3 times 20, 60 divided by 2, that gives you 30 hours. That's not correct. That's hours. You see that? And then you take a look over here to M. That's 40 minutes or 0.67. Correct answer. Wizard's logic. I selected for my M value a number. Why? Because wizards say math is supposed to be about numbers. 49, Wizard's logic. Problem 50. 50, what I did over here, you got to know a formula. And the formula for volume is pi r squared times the height, which we saw earlier in the test. Now, when you come over here, what we're going to do is take our information here and just plug in the stuff here. We've got the radius, all right, tells us here is 5. So V equals pi 5 squared times 9, which is the centimeters. And then it tells us the cube is 3 by 3. So basically just plug it in, all right? You've got the volume pi 5 squared times 9 subtracted from the cube, which is 3 times 3. Calculate that out, and then go ahead and match your answer choices. That's going to give you answer choice G for problem 50, geometry. Kids, problem 51 is a little bit of Wizard's ruler. Ha ha ha. Take a look over here. First of all, the term here, it says vertex. The vertex is the highest point. So they give you this. From here to here is the vertex. That is the longest leg or the highest, right? The highest point. So what we did is we come over here and you go ahead and quickly just make your ruler. Here it is here. And it tells us that it's an X. You could say, all right, that X value, since that's wizard's logic, X equals 2, X equals 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to do, all right? I chose for my X value, I went ahead and said that my X value is going to be 4, all right? Then what you do is you come over here, you make your ruler. Here's 4, here's 2, here's 1, here's 0.5, and then you make your ruler, all right? So I come over here, here's 2, slide it over, 2 plus 0.5, 2.5, 2.75. You see what I just did there? 2.75. Then I write that down. I come over here, translate my answer choices. I said that my X value was going to be 4. So 4 times 2, right? Okay, that's 8. Calculate this out. The only answer choice that's going to get you close here is 2.82. Pretty good, if you ask me, for measuring. Now, remember, on ACT, your teachers will probably tell you that you can't do this because the test writer does not draw them to scale. However, they separate the answer choices pretty far. All right? So, 51, D, wizard's ruler. All right, so now we're into matrix. Okay, so what's the value for A in the matrix equation? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here and take 4A, 3, and 1, and we're going to go ahead and multiply 4A by 2, 3 by 4, 1, negative 1 by 1, all right? And then when you do that over here, it's going to equal the first number over here, which is 35. So here we go, 4A times 2, times 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, all right? Negative 1, 1, negative 1, and a 1. And all of that, horizontal times vertical, is going to equal the number in the pink, which is 35. Add all this up, and then solve for A. All right, boom, 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 boom. Add it up, 8A plus 12 minus 1. All right, 8A plus 11. We get rid of the 1 there. And then what we do is subtract 11 from both sides. It looks like it's 8A equals 24. Solve for A is going to be 3. That's going to give you K, matrix. Geometry, kids, if you look over here, the formula you're going to need for this particular problem is A equals pi r squared. Step 1, we got to calculate what the large pipe is. Find the area of the large pipe. A, all right? Tells us over here that we have the radius is 4. So A equals pi 4 squared, which means 4 squared is 16. Area is 16 pi. Now, the smaller pipe is going to be half of that. So what we do is I labeled it here just like we did in that other volume problem, okay? If you can see this, this is A1. Over here, we've got A2. Now, A1 is 16 pi, and A2 is half, so it's going to be 8 pi, right? So we say A2 is 8 pi, which equals pi r squared. Then what we do is we cancel out the pi's, and now you have the area is r squared, okay? R squared, take your r squared is going to be 8. You find the square root of 8 because you've got your 8 here, and r squared, 8 equals r squared. The square root of 8 gives you 2.82. Now, translate your answers. You come over here, which one of these answer choices equals 2.82? That is 2 times the square root of 2, 2.82. That's C for geometry problem 53. Kids, on a 54, whoa, my favorite as usual, it is wizard's ruler. First thing you want to do here, we're going to go ahead and see that there's a known value 6 here at the bottom. And at the top over here, they're asking you for the peak of the pyramid, right? This height here. What I did is I came over here and I see that the value they give me is 6. Right here, I just simply go 6. Half of 6 is 3. Half of that's 1.5, 0.75. And 0.37. Okay, cool. Then what I do is I come over here and my ruler, I'm going to have to just put it here. And then I'm going to measure up to the apex or the vertex up here, right? Here, we go to here. If you look, here is what we have, 1.5. We slide that up there. It looks like it's 1.5. It looks like we're going to have something a little bit over 3. Okay, does that make sense? You saw I just quickly measured it out. Then what I did is I translated my answer choices. 3 divided by the tangent of 80 gives me 5.29. That's way too big. I'm looking for something a hair over 3, okay? If you look at G, G is 3 times the tangent of 40. That gives me less than 3, which is 2.5. Still too small. Here, 3 divided by the tangent of 40 gives me 3.57. Let's put a dot by that one. J gives me 5, too big, and K gives me 17, way too big. H, correct answer. Wizard's ruler, kids, 54 on to 55 is going to be a pre-algebra problem here on this one, all right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to look for the standard deviation. Now, some of you kids that might say, oh my gosh, woo! I never did that. I haven't had stats yet, or I don't remember that from stats. Okay, so what is standard deviation? Standard deviation is basically like the spaces between the numbers, okay? So if you're looking for the lowest or the highest, you just look at your sets here. We're looking for the lowest. Just look for the numbers that are closest together. Here we've got -10, -5, there's 5 spaces there. Here's 100, 200, that's 100 spaces. Here's 2, 4, 6, that's 2 spaces. Here's 100, 100, 101, 102, 102. Ooh, that's a half a space. And here is 1, 2, 3, that's 1 space. Here, when you just look at the numbers, you see there's only half of a space in there, so that's going to be the lowest standard deviation when you take a look at that. And the answer choice on that one is going to be answer choice D. Hack it, kids. Take a look at 56. 56, it is Wizard's logic again. Whoa, my favorite. Come back over here. First of all, we're going to come over here and make sure that you know a couple of terms here, all right? So we have an integer, and that's asking us about integer here. An integer cannot be a negative exponent. It can be a whole number, positive or negative, and it can be 0. So that means that there's going to be no fractions, no decimals, and no negative exponents. Make sure that you take note here. Integers, no negative exponents. Then what we do is we use a little bit of Wizard's logic. I chose A equals 3 and B equals -2. Why? Because it tells us in here A has got to be larger than 0. I chose 3. You could choose 2. 3 is working for me. Whatever you want to do, you choose it. Now, here's the trick here. B has got to be less than 0, so it's got to be a negative number. For me, I always stay away from ones, like A is 1, B is -1. For some reason, because if we have to square it, 1 times 1 is 1, and that gets to be complicated. So choose other numbers besides 1. For me, I chose A is 3, B is 2. Then, take your numbers, plug them in here for your exponents. Go over here, take a look at it. It's 3A plus B. Translate that. That's 3 with your exponent. 3 plus -2, that's a negative exponent. That's out. G gives you flat out 3. If you look over here, you're going to take a look. That's a negative exponent, negative exponent, negative exponent. G for answer choice 56. Wizard's logic with a little bit of a definition for integers. Let's go ahead, take a look at problem 57, kids. It's Wizard's logic again. Make sure that you read the question carefully over here, okay? So here's what I did. First thing that I want to do is I'm going to have x be positive, okay? So I'm going to keep my x value as positive. Now, what I want to do here is I want to pick the smallest number for my x value. So I just went over here and went x equals 0.001. Okay, now here it tells you that our y value is going to be bigger than that. Okay, so what we do is you take your y value over here and throw your y value in, throw it in. I chose y equals 0.001. Then what we want to do is take these numbers here, divide them out, and make sure that what we have here is going to be larger than our y value. So what we do is 0.001 divided by 0.001 gives me 1.10, which is a true value. Look at your answer choices and see that none of them are negative, number 1. So that means D and E can be crossed out right away. And then since we took the smallest of the smallest numbers and we got 1, it can't start at 0, so C is going to be out. And also B is going to be out because it cannot start at 0. We started at 1 or a little bit bigger. Now, if we would have chose numbers that are a little bit bigger than this value would have gotten bigger as well. A is the correct answer for problem 57. On to 58. If you look at problem 58 here, kids, you're going to see it's a geometry problem, and they're dealing with a track that's square and a circle in the middle of it. It's superimposed off of each other. First thing to do is visualize it by drawing a picture. I went ahead and made my picture, which is my rectangle here, 100 by 150. Then what I did is I'm looking for a track. So here it tells us that there's going to be a fence 10 feet on each side. So I went 100 is the shorter side, right? And then I went 100 minus 10 because there's a fence on both sides. So 100 minus 10 on each side gives me a diameter of 80, right? Does that make sense? If the diameter is 80, the radius is going to be 40. That will give you answer choice F. Visualize, go ahead and draw it out. Kids, on a 59. 59, if you look over here at 59, this is kind of a visual problem as well here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have a sphere. Think of an apple, okay? If you have an apple and you go ahead and cut the apple, first of all, cut number 1, you cut it in half, all right? And we cut it horizontally. That's going to give you 2 sectors. Option 1 is to take that knife and cut it vertically. Now, when you do that, you're going to see that you've got 1, 2, 3, and you've got 4 particular quadrants, okay? After you do that, the option 2 would be to take your knife and your apple and cut the apple in half. Then with the second cut, instead of going vertical, you're going to cut it again. You could have either done it up here or here. I chose to cut my second cut here. If I do it there, you're going to see that now with the 2 cuts, I've cut it into 3 portions. Here, 4 portions, 3 portions. That gives you answer choice D for practice problem number 59. On to problem 60. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one, kids. All right, here what we want to do is we have our A minus B equals 5. I went ahead and started off by just choosing a number for B. I chose 2, B equals 2. Then what I did is I came over here and said A minus 2 equals 5. So that means that A is going to equal 7. You with me? Once I calculated that out, you got to keep in mind that we've got our absolute value here. So now what we need to do is we need to be thinking about the negative of that with a negative 5, because A minus B could equal a negative 5. All right, so what do we have here? Now we have in step 4, A minus 2 equals negative 5. So what's A going to equal in this particular solution? When we have the negative symbol and the thinking of both negative 5 and positive 5 because of the absolute value brackets, here it's A minus 2 equals negative 5, so our A value, if we have here, is going to be negative 3. Negative 3 and a negative 2 give you a negative 5, is what we solved up here. So that's going to be A is a negative 3. Now what we need to do is we need to think of a number line. What's the positive difference between the 2 solutions? So think of them on a number line. We have 7 and we have a negative 3. 7 and a negative 3 gives you 10 spaces because we're not worrying about the negative here. We're just thinking about the difference in a positive value on a number line. And when you do that, 10 is going to be the answer because 7 spaces plus 3 more in the negative version of the number line will give you 10. That's going to give you answer choice K. Kids, it's Princeton Test 2 Math. Woo! Thanks for watching. Bye for now.